Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So there's this counterintuitive thing that I had to learn when I got older. That just because you do good doesn't necessarily mean good will follow. Meaning just because you take moral, upstanding actions, even from a humanistic standpoint, it doesn't necessarily mean that your life will be unicorns and rainbows. And it doesn't necessarily mean that pot of gold will be delivered to your doorstep. In fact, it's often the opposite of those things. From a religious context, people would say you reap what you sow, but you reap what you sow is, again, not necessarily just because if you do good things will follow. It just means that there will be a consequence for something that you do. For example, in Iran, the guy tries to pass secular government or non-batshit crazy religious government. The public itself, meaning Iran, made the decision, based on their representative government, to get more money or more revenue back to the people of Iran for the oil from BP. Now, for this good, upstanding action that was indicative of somebody who was trying to represent the interests of his country, his people, and if we're being honest, just humanistic concerns in general, that country was overthrown and a brutal dictator was installed into that country with the help of the CIA and Britain. Doing good does not necessarily mean good things will follow. Martin Luther King coming out against the war. Martin Luther King was eventually killed, and to some measure, I wouldn't even say not necessarily a small measure, of him being strong against the war. Not to mention the civil rights stuff, but I'm giving the war speech more so than anything else. I'm just saying doing good things doesn't necessarily mean that things will follow. And in fact, it often means the opposite of those things. Doing good things means you're probably pissing somebody else off in their pursuit of something else that's not all that good. Seeing as they're probably already pursuing something that's not all that good, it will probably not necessarily matter doing not good things to you. Now, that being said, I make this point to say, the gentleman up here, Colin Kaepernick. Now, Kaepernick did something that not many athletes do. He took a knee. He didn't hoot and holler. He wasn't running around the field. Yes, he was because he was playing football. I'm just saying, he wasn't being overt or anything else. He took a knee. Now, the whole point was this knee symbolizes, oh my God, these people are being murdered in the streets. I can't just throw the football and I can't just run down the field. Now, he's right by this. I mean, him running down the field or him throwing the football is minor in comparison to somebody getting shot in the face and that person skating with the crime. So I totally understand where he's coming from on this. He's absolutely right. And you would think that more athletes would have done this. I mean, you look at the poverty, you look at the certain amount of desperation, you look at the people being shot. You can go down a list of a litany of issues that you would think athletes would say, wait a minute, this is important to me. Somebody needs to focus on this. Somebody needs to pay attention to this. But typically they don't. They run their football, they dribble their basketball, and they're left to their own devices. They leave the world to their own devices. Kaepernick didn't do this. Now, somebody can make the case that says, well, he wasn't paid to give his personal beliefs. He was paid to play football. And again, fair enough, but this goes back to the original point. Just because you're doing something good doesn't necessarily mean good will follow. Him taking the knee was literally to say, you guys are murdering people. Cops are shooting people in the face and these guys are walking. Something needs to be done. Someone needs to pay attention to this. Somebody needs to put their focus on this. I can't just throw the stupid pigskin while that's taking place. He was punished for this. I mean, you're talking about directly attacking his living for this particular thing. Now, understand, even during the civil rights movement, most whites didn't think there was an issue. They looked at the world and things look pretty decent. I don't see the problem here. So I have no belief at all that anybody's going to look at what he's doing, or at the very least, the stadium, or the majority of the people in this country is going to look at what he's doing and think that this guy should be doing this. I think most people will look at him and say, oh God, they're bringing this up again. I honestly think that's where most people are. African Americans, no, we're not there. I actually like what he's doing. I actually like the fact that he had the balls to take a stand on something like this. I actually like that he looked at the larger context of the things that matter to him and say, I throw a pigskin down the field. There is nothing more insignificant than what I do for a living, and I'm getting paid a massive amount of money to do this. The least I can do is take a knee. I like that. Doesn't mean he's not being punished for it. This is a story that was in TMZ.com. U.S. military official cautioned Ravens on signing the QB Now, the military official is just a person, so it's not necessarily the military of the United States. Just kind of making this point. Most athletes have taken their check, dribbled their ball, threw their ball, and called it a day. They didn't necessarily deal with the issues of the wider world. Kaepernick has assiduously stuck to this thing of, I have a moral compass. My life is larger than the thing that I do. And seeing as I have a particular opportunity, I'm going to spread that opportunity around to the degree that I can spread it around. In this case, like I said before, just because you do good doesn't necessarily mean good is going to follow. And in this case, he's been somewhat marginalized for the choice. At least one high-ranking military official counseled Baltimore Ravens about signing Colin Kaepernick and made it very clear that he is not a fan of the QB. TMZ Sports has learned when Ravens head coach John Harbaugh was considering signing Kaepernick to the team before 2017, he sought advice from a trusted friend. We learned at least one of those friends is a high-ranking official in the military who essentially told Harbaugh to seriously consider if Kaepernick national anthem demonstration fell in line with the team's core values. The official didn't outright say, don't sign Cap, but he advised the team to give Kaepernick a set of specific guidelines he needed to follow if he wanted to keep his job. Essentially, if you kneel, you're fired. Ultimately, the Ravens decided not to go with Kaepernick, instead signing a journeyman backup QB, Thad Lewis, who hadn't thrown a pass in the NFL for 4 years. I think they're trying to make this point of, was their goal to win games or to block political speech? It wasn't to win games. It wasn't to win games. Yes, he's being materially harmed by his perspective. But again, this is one of those things where sometimes there are things that matter more. And in this case, people getting shot and walking without any particular consequence, and the rest of society just kind of going along their way. I would say this matters more. Good for fucking him. Too bad about the jobs, but good for fucking him. So, all right, guys. If you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you guys can always support through Patreon. Thanks, everyone. I got to be honest, I didn't necessarily have a point to this. I just wanted to flag it. Thanks, guys.